Hey everyone, this is Stefan from ProjectLifeMastery.com, and I've got a really important video for you guys today where I want to talk to you about how to really master your mind and your emotions. Because if you can master this, then you'll have mastered your life. And if you fail to master it, if you fail to take charge and control of your beliefs, your mentality, your emotional experience of life, then you're always going to be in pain. You're always going to be reacting to the events of your life and what's going on in the economy and this person and that person and what this person said. And you're going to live a life of suffering. And I see, unfortunately, so many people live their life that way because they haven't really taken charge and really learned how to master their mind and their emotions. And I'm going to share with you guys today the concept of being reactive, the reactive mindset versus the proactive mindset. Now, a lot of people, they're living a very reactive life, okay? They're reacting to everything that's going on the outside world. And the truth is, you don't have control over the outside world. You don't have control over the weather, okay? You don't have control over what the president is gonna do or what this company is gonna do or your city or your country or maybe in a relationship. You don't have control over that other person. You don't have control over your family and your friends. You don't have control over your customers. You don't have control over any of that. But what you do have control over 100% is your mind, your emotions, how you choose to react and interpret the events of your life. Because it's not the events. There's a lot of people that live in the same circumstance that you might be in right now. Same financial circumstance, the same body, health, energy, physical shape, the same, whether you're single, married, divorce, whatever that is, there's other people out there in those same circumstances as you, and yet they have a totally different emotional experience than what you might have. One person might be going through that and might be suffering emotionally and unhappy and blaming and negative and depressed about that. Another person could interpret that being grateful and cheerful and joyful and be excited about their life and wanting to make new changes. Same circumstances, same events, same environment, yet different emotional response. How is it that two people can go to Afghanistan and both of them lose their legs, come back in a wheelchair, and then one person that had that same experience as the other feel sorry for themselves and depressed and say, God, why me? And they want to kill themselves. Whereas the other person, the same circumstance, comes back in the wheelchair and says, oh my God, thank you, God. I'm so grateful to be alive. I've got a second chance. I'm going to live my life to the fullest now. I'm going to be grateful for every day because I know how fast it can be taken away from me. How is it that those two people with the same experience can interpret things in different ways? Because of right here. How you interpret the events of your life is what's going to determine the quality of your life. And a lot of people, what happens is they react to all the littlest things. And if you're living your life that way, you're always going to be suffering and pain, and you're going to be a slave to the events of your life that are outside of your control. So you're pretty much guaranteed never to be happy until you take control and understand that you are in charge. You have control of how you interpret the events of your life. To give you guys an example, I can give you so many examples, but I remember years ago, this is maybe like 4 years ago or so, but I had this one client that I was coaching, great woman, and I was helping her to build her online business, specifically with publishing. And I was coaching her and helping her with that, and she was doing pretty well. She was making great progress. And what happened was, around that time, I was working on creating Key Money Mastery, my Kindle publishing course, because I didn't want to always, I just knew that I couldn't have the time to coach people one-on-one to teach them that. And so I wanted to create an online course that could scale myself and leverage, and I could reach more people, and I wouldn't have to always walk through, people through the steps on Skype. And so I was creating this course and I made it available. And this person, this customer that I had, chose to react from that event and that occurrence. And she chose to react in a very negative way. And this person freaked out and a lot of her fears came up, and she's, oh my God, other people are going to know this opportunity, which means that for her, how she interpreted it, that means that there's not going to be as much opportunity for me, or there's going to be maybe more competition, or Stefan doesn't really care about me. And she created all these disempowering meanings from that event. And funny enough, I had another client that I was also working with that interpreted that totally differently. And he says, wow, great job, Stefan. I'm so excited for this because now I can, go deeper into different content material that you have, and I don't have to pay, a higher rate to learn from you. I can instead learn from this course. And they just saw it as a totally different, how they interpret it was so different than the other person. And unfortunately, that other person that I was working with, a great person, but this is a pattern that she would run, is at any time something would trigger her fears, her insecurity, then she would react in a negative way. Another example of this is my girlfriend, her online business. She sells physical products on Amazon and also does affiliate marketing. But she had this one client that bought her product, physical product, and got shipped to her. And something that the person expected wasn't included in that. And so my girlfriend explained, no, that's not included. Here's where it is. It's not included. But this customer freaked out. Okay, this person reacted and just threw a huge fit over this, even though that they were actually, they're actually wrong about the matter, as the truth of it. But they freaked out and they said, "Oh, I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna get my lawyer involved and all this over a product that's like $40, right?" That's how crazy some people are. But people, whenever I see that, I feel sympathy over people like that because I know that they're suffering. I know that they're in some pain, in some way in their life. That if you got a wound, if you got a big wound here on your arm, and you're already in pain, and it doesn't really take much to get a reaction out of you. I could just have a feather come and touch you and tickle you, and you're going to react. And that's how most people are. Even on my Snapchat the other day, I was watching the inauguration of Donald Trump. And social media, Snapchat, you share your life. You share what you're doing that day. You share what you're going to the gym. You're doing this, what you're watching, whatever. And so I just shared a snap of I'm watching this inauguration, which millions of people around the world were. And this person reacted, a person that follows me, and this person freaked out. And because I guess and I'm not American, I live in Canada, I don't really even follow politics. I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump or anything like that. I'm just pretty much indifferent because I also believe that regardless of who's the president or whatever, they don't have control over my life. They might have some influence over it, but I take charge, I control my experience of life. And I see a lot of people, they react to Donald Trump or this person and all. It's just such a reactive mess. And there's a lot of emotional maturity that I feel is really lacking in the world and for a lot of these people's experiences. But anyways, this person freaked out, got upset because they came to a conclusion, a meaning of how they interpreted that as I was celebrating Donald Trump, or I was a fan of Donald Trump, or he came to certain assumptions. And that's the key. You can never assume, because whenever you are creating a meaning, then you're assuming something. And your assumptions are not true. They're your interpretation of that, because other people can interpret this same thing in a different way. You might, in your relationship, say something but mean well, but maybe your partner might interpret that as you trying to offend them or make fun of them or something like that. If you've ever had an experience like that, you can interpret the event that if someone's late for a date or a meeting, that you can interpret they don't care, or you can interpret that as, oh my God, maybe something happened to them, or maybe they're going through a lot right now in their life. So my point is, I can go through so many examples of people being in this reactive mindset, this reactive mentality. And to really master your mind and emotions, you have to develop emotional maturity. You have to learn how to be what I call proactive, okay? Proactive is the opposite of reactive. Proactive, number one, first and foremost, I believe that you should have a practice in the morning, throughout the day, a morning ritual that puts you in a strong, powerful state, that puts you at your absolute best emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Because when you are, how you react to events throughout your day is not going to make much of a difference for you. And I notice a huge difference when I don't do my ritual versus when I do my ritual, because when I do my ritual, I have a different energy to myself. When I'm feeling great each day because I took that time every morning to do an empowering morning ritual, what happens is man, there could be bombs going on around me. This could happen in my business. This stressful thing might happen or occur, but it just bounces right off of me because I'm centered and strong. See, you got to be like a rock. Okay, you got to be rock solid. You got to be centered. You got to be grounded. You know, if you're always off balance, you can easily fall over. But if you're solid, then things just bounce right off of you. You know, I kind of imagine like if you're in the ocean, you're a rock that's steady and sturdy, whereas the ocean, which can be life sometimes, there might be a storm, there might be waves crashing on you, but because you're so strong mentally, emotionally, and physically, then it doesn't really affect you that much. You just move on. And that's what a ritual does. That's why I preach the importance of a morning ritual. That's why I created a course called Morning Ritual Mastery, which, by the way, if you don't yet have, you need to get at morningritualmastery.com. That's my little plug, but it's that important to master that. That's why I created this course inexpensively, to help people go deep with it, to really learn this, because that will get you out of that reactive state, okay? The other tip that I have is you have to learn how to interpret things in a positive way, a more empowering way, not to jump to the negative conclusion. A lot of people, they react so fast. You know, something happens and they just immediately react. What happens if, you know, just for a moment you took a step back and you just looked at that from a different perspective? You know, if someone says something and someone you love in a relationship said something or something happened, maybe you could take a step back and think, you know what, before I react to this and say and respond in this way, you know, can I maybe think about what they're going through? Or maybe is it really true that they meant that they said that what they mean is what I believe? Is that really true? You can start to question that and look at it through a different lens, a different filter. Maybe get outside yourself for a moment, put yourself in the other person's shoes. You know, oftentimes, you know, people might be stressed and going through a lot. You know, I remember the story about Stephen Covey. Wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. At one point, he was on, I think, a train or a bus or something like that, and there's a woman there, and she was with a bunch of kids, and these kids were causing all this ruckus and noise and being destructive on this bus, and he reacted, and he got upset, and what happened was he confronted the woman and said, hey, can you do something about your kids? And he got upset, and he reacted in a harsh way. And then the other woman, or it might have been a man, but they responded and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, they just lost their mom or their parents, and I just think they don't know how to really deal with it. And Stephen Covey looked at that and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I reacted in that way when I didn't have all the information. You know, I just came to an assumption instead of getting outside of myself and maybe understanding maybe they're going through a hard time. Maybe this person is going through pain in their life, and that you can have sympathy for them and react and respond in that way with love and compassion instead of anger and coming up with a negative conclusion. Okay, so you have to take a step back and assess the situation before you respond in a lot of cases. If you catch yourself reacting in this negative way, take a step back and really look at it through a different lens. You know, sometimes something might happen, might bother me. I might go to the gym, I might go for a walk, I might take a break before I respond to that so I can change my state and maybe think about it a little bit of a different way instead of just being just so reactionary where that emotion that might come up temporarily might not be how I really feel. It might just be a response out of fear and negativity and what I'm going through at that point in my day. You know, there's sometimes I'm going through a hard time, you know, and you can take that out on other people, right? So taking a step back, guys, don't be so soon to come up with these interpretations and these negative meanings of things. And because really what you're doing in that case is, again, you're just being reactionary to the moment, the event, and you're gonna always live your life in that pattern, being a slave to that. You're never gonna fully be able to be free. Another thing that I do is when something happens, I always think, okay, is this really true? Is this really true? And oftentimes the answer is no. You know, it's not really true. I can think of many examples where I can change my perception of that. And I might ask myself, is it true? Is it possible that I misinterpreted this? Is it possible that they didn't really mean that? Is it possible that maybe they're going through a hard time? Is it possible that I don't have all the information about this situation and maybe I got to investigate and find out more? Or I might ask myself, what's great about this? What can I learn from this? How can I benefit from this? How can this enhance my life? Whenever I get a parking ticket or something like that, I have two options. I could react in a negative way and get upset and hurt, or I decide, hey, you know what, this is a good lesson. What I learned here is that I should have paid more attention to the sign and I should have not parked here, or I should have come back and put some more money in the meter, or I should have done this or this instead. I look at that as a learning experience which allows me to feel good about the situation rather than be upset about it. Okay? So that's how you master your mindset, is you master the meaning, how you interpret these events. The best way to do that is ask questions. Take a step back and ask questions like, what's great about this? What can I learn? How can this really benefit me? How can I interpret this in a more positive way? How can I find out more about the situation? So I can have a more intelligent response to this rather than just do an emotional response to it. And if you do that, guys, that transforms everything for you. It transforms your relationships with other people, right? It transforms how you feel, most importantly, the emotional experience that you have in your life, your happiness and joy and passion, etc. You're going to be a lot happier, and in business and everything else that you're going through. So the happiest people that I know of, that I've met, that I've studied, that I've been around, they've all mastered this. They all look at things in an empowering way, a positive way. They don't react so quick. And they've learned just to be in control of their emotions and not let other people, not giving away their power to others, okay? So hopefully this makes sense for you, okay? Hopefully you really absorbed what I'm sharing with you here today, because it is a very important concept, a very important principle that can really free yourself, that can allow you to, again, experience more happiness. And that's what I want for you guys. That's what every one of you that are watching this, even people that might watch this, that might disagree, or people that don't like me or hate me, I don't interpret that in a negative way for myself in any way. I don't take that personally, because these people don't really know me, and maybe they're just reacting to something I might have said or done, but it's not really who they are. And I love everyone, I care about everyone, and that's why I do what I do, is that I want to influence in a positive way and be able to make an impact by sharing ideas and concepts that have enhanced my life. Because I was once the most reactive person out there. I remember years ago, just total pain, and I relate and love people like that because I was once one of them, okay? So hopefully this can empower you guys in some way and help you take charge. Take charge of your mindset, guys. You have control of that. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the thumbs up if you did enjoy this video. Leave a comment below. Love to hear what you guys have to say, what you guys think, and make sure you subscribe for more videos. And by the way, check out Morning Ritual Mastery, okay, my online 7-day course to help you master your mind, your emotions. It all starts with the rituals that you have in your life. Just go to morningritualmastery.com. There'll be a link below in the description. That's it. You guys are awesome. I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video. Take care.